Hi everybody, it's Librarian Faith from the Mandel Public Library of West Palm Beach. And today, I'll be showing you how to make a Totoro's Magic Garden using the seeds from this month's Scrap and Go kits. Let's get started, shall we? You'll need a couple of things in order to do this project. Firstly, you'll need a planter. This is a 15-inch plastic planter, which should work great for what the seeds we're using. You generally want something at least 14 inches, if not bigger. And since we're in South Florida, the plastic planter is a bit better for any outdoor pot gardening, just because terracotta can kind of suck out the moisture, whereas the plastic will retain it. You'll also need some seeds. I am using our radish and giant pansy seeds from this month. These are particularly good for container gardening, as the radishes don't need a ton of space to grow. I'm also using a marigold, as it is a natural insect repellent, and quite pretty. Some soil, of course, and a little Totoro to make it a Totoro's Magic Garden. You'll also need plenty of sunlight and lots of water. Make sure you keep an eye on the moisture levels for this project. You'll generally want to give it a little bit of water every evening. The first thing we'll need to do is fill this container up with potting soil. Now, I'm using a potting soil that's specifically meant for containers. It has a little bit more nutrients in it. And we're going to go ahead and fill up our container about to this second lip right here. Go ahead and break up the clumps when you're putting the potting soil into your new container, just so that it's easier for the roots to grow down deeper later on. Okay, now I have the soil in the pot. As you can see, it's a bit of a messy endeavor, so gardening is best done outside, unless you like sweeping, in which case you can do it wherever you like. Okay, now that we have this in here, I'm going to go ahead and pot up our marigold. And I'm just going to do the marigold in the corner. So I'm going to dig out a little area in this corner, making sure that there's soil up against the walls. And I'm going to turn the plant over with my fingers in between the stem of the plant to give it support. And I'm going to squeeze the outside container. Loosen the roots that I see have gone ahead and grown through on the bottom. This poor little dude's pretty dry. Don't know how often he was watered. And this is a great example of a root-bound plant. Root-bound happens when a plant has been in one too small container for too long, and the roots are growing around like this. Now we need to break them up so that the roots know they're no longer in a circular container, and they can kind of grow all over the place. If you don't do this, they won't know that they're no longer in that small container, and they'll keep going around and around and around in that same tiny little container shape, and the plant can literally strangle itself. And do it just about like that. We'll go ahead and put it in that little hole we created off in the corner, packing the dirt around it now. When you're putting the dirt into the planter, you don't want to just start packing it in. We don't need that. You want the dirt to be nice and fluffy for the seeds and for the roots so that they can take hold easily. Now that we have a plant in here though, you do kind of want to press around it. You don't want to force the plant down in there, but you do want to be firm. So now we have our marigold planted. Now, we're going to take our seeds. We'll do the radish first. We'll read the beautiful little instructions I typed up. And this says to plant the seeds 1/2 to 1 inch deep and plant them a few inches apart. Generally about the length of your thumb. 2 inches also is about half the width of a credit card, to kind of give you a visual idea of how much distance you need to put in between them. There we go. And I say I give everybody 5 seeds, but generally I give people 5 to 15 seeds. It's not good time management to count out 5 individual seeds for the couple hundred seed kits we lend out each month, so I just kind of give a handful. But we're just going to go ahead, use our finger, poke it into the dirt, a little bit down, and then we're going to pop 1 seed in that little hole area. And just again using our finger and tapping the dirt back down around it. And we're going to do about a thumb's width away from it. And drop another seed down there. And we're just going to keep doing that until we have all the seeds that we want planted in our container. I'm going to do about 5 right now. And then I'll save the rest of the seeds for later. Now radishes are very quick germinating plants. Sometimes even as quick as 3 weeks after planting them, you can harvest them. So by only doing 5 right now, I'm leaving some for later. That way I can kind of keep rotating through and have fresh radishes all summer long. Next I'm going to plant my giant pansies, which are an edible flower. On our library blog page, which I'll link in the description below, there is a recipe for a salad using the radishes and the giant pansy seeds, which is quite delicious if I say so myself. Now for these, I'm going to put 2 seeds into each little hole that I've dug out, just because they're so tiny, might as well. But again, I can save the rest for later. And if I find I have too many pansies popping up, I can just thin them out. Now that's totally fine. You got these seeds for free, so don't worry about wasting them, it's fine. And again, I'm just doing 5 little spaces evenly apart from each other, following the instructions on my little sheet. And there we have it. All of our seeds are planted and our marigold is planted. So the last thing we need to do is to water our plants. You want to make sure you water them very thoroughly that first time. Especially this marigold. It's just gone through a bit of a shock having its roots all torn up. It's what we needed to do for the plant, but it's still a pretty drastic change for the plant. And ditto for all the seedlings. You want to make sure they have plenty of nutrients in order to grow. We're just going to go ahead and water everything. And once we're done watering, we can go ahead and add in our little Totoro. Now, Stephen on the second floor was the one who made this Totoro. He actually did it for a Valentine's Day special at the library. If you want to learn how to make your own Totoro, feel free to swing by the second floor and ask him. He's always at the 3D printer. And I thought it was especially appropriate to have our little Totoro guarding our garden, since on the Ghibli film My Neighbor Totoro, he teaches the 2 little girls how to garden, and they bring it to their mom to try to help her get better. There we go. Now, if you have a planter with holes at the bottom, which I highly recommend doing, then you'll want to water this about once a day until the water runs through the bottom. If you don't have a pot with holes in the bottom, then you're going to need to be a little bit more careful with your watering. You don't want to over-water it, otherwise the plants can get root rot at the bottom and just sitting in stagnated water. And that's not good. It's very gross as somebody who's accidentally done that to a plant before. I don't recommend it, so just try to keep an eye on it. One way to tell if you're overwatering is to stick your finger into the soil and to see how moist the soil is going down. If it's very soggy at the bottom, then don't water for a little bit. Or you can just drill a hole into the bottom, and that'll give you a drainage hole. Okay, now we're nice and watered, so we're going to position our little Totoro in our garden. I'm going to put him right here underneath the marigold so he has some shade in the sun. And there we have it, our magical Totoro garden. I'll be sure to post pictures once all the plants start sprouting, that way you can see how it turns out. And if you plant your own Totoro magical garden, please send us the photos, we'd love to see them. Thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you next week. Happy crafting!